foods kill with staggering amounts of salt, sugar, usually high fructose corn syrup, and unhealthy fat.
Good. What is that? Beef or pork?
We use meat.
Why do you say it like that?
We are required by law to put it in quotes.
These fish, all sterile females, are genetically engineered. 30 years ago, scientists spliced in a growth hormone gene from Pacific Chinook salmon. They also added a so-called promoter gene from ocean poutfish.
Do you really know what you and your family are eating?
The anti-GM block.
They say not enough is known about the risks to humans and the environment.
Once upon a time, our food used to be grown naturally, not injected with hormones, nor extra ingredients with toxic chemicals and additives and preservatives you cannot even pronounce. Our food used to be natural and not something that was produced in a laboratory. In this video, we expose in depth some of the most bioengineered and chemical creations that has found its way into our foods that we may eat daily, and how long-term consumption of these foods may make people sick or worse. I can't emphasize how important it is to watch this whole video, as there's a lot of valuable information that the general public doesn't know and we will uncover. Do us a favor and click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to click on the bell icon. Too many of our subscribers are not being notified of our new videos because you haven't clicked the notification bell.
Fruit flavor cereal, T-R-I-X tricks, some tricks. Fruit colors, raspberry red, orange, lemon yellow. No extra sugar needed. Just add milk because tricks are sugar-coated.
Some tricks. It's got what I like. Fruit flavor and fruit colors. Tricks are fun.
Of many convenience foods, almost 58% of the calories we eat every day come from ultra-processed foods. So that includes the packaged breads, the cookies, the soda, and frozen meals. 21% of the calories are from the sugar, and that's 5 times the amount as in lower unprocessed food.
20 or more than 10% of those early deaths were attributable to ultra-processed foods in 2019. That's likely because they increase your risk of heart disease, cancer, diabetes.
Take a look at some of these ingredients in this processed food. Is any of it actual food? Is there a long list of chemical additives disguised as foods?
Ultra convenient, that will sit on the shelf and be waiting for you when you're ready to eat them, and also incredibly low cost.
Maybe low cost at the checkout line, but we pay dearly later on.
So how did we go from that to this? You can say it's due to greed.
It's just money. It's not wrong.
Lack of government regulation, and absence of the awareness from the general public. They profit off our ignorance. They want us to eat foods that are harmful to our health by destroying our food quality, then profit from the medicine and drugs that are created from the health problems caused by these foods. It seems that they are trying to kill us.
It's a man-made chemical. We're being poisoned.
Let's start off with GMO. Abbreviation for genetically modified organism is an animal or plant whose DNA has been altered through the usage of genetic engineering technology. So for instance, genetic code of organism can be altered to have specific traits, such as being resistant to herbicides, pests, and even to boost growth. Personally, the name sounds off-putting, and how did it make its way into our food? Is this something you want to feed your children or those who you care about? It sounds like something out of a horror movie. Something has been genetically modified to become creatures of sorts.
Almost 90% of corn and more than 90% of soybeans that are planted in the United States are genetically engineered.
So it's just in everything.
Most of it's scientific funding from the USDA. Now it gets it from corporations, so we adjust.
This is science.
Unfortunately, with our food, GMO is a painful reality and may only increase over time. Here are a few foods that are GMO, and let's see if you knew it was. Corn. According to New York Times in this article, 90% of American grown corn is GMO. It was created to resist insects and endure herbicides. Because its genetically modified corn has been banned from Mexico and the European Union.
Mexico's president wants to ban U.S. corn over its use of biotech, or genetically modified grain.
The decision is predicted to cost the U.S. corn industry some $13.5 billion in the decade following the ban.
GMO has been linked to possibly organ damage, tumors, and allergies. Although banned in other countries, the FDA approves it for consumption for us Americans to eat.
Governments are not representing the people. Governments are completely in the hands of the big corporations. It's all about money.
you will be surprised to see how much corn really impacts the diet of Americans, either directly or indirectly. Even if you don't devour corn on the cob, it can be found in their foods through cooking oils, high fructose corn syrup that is a big ingredient in our ever-increasing processed foods, cereal, corn, muffins, snacks, tortilla flour, and the list goes on and on.
If you add water to a food product, you must put water on the food label. But if you add insecticide through genetic engineering, you need not label.
This is just the beginning. Referring to the FDA website, you will see soybean, cotton, potato, papaya, apple, canola, sugar beet are all common foods that are GMO. You will see that 95% of the animals we consume as meat are fed a diet of GMO crops. Although the FDA states that the DNA from GMO foods do not transfer to animals that consume it, in my opinion, I can't help to be skeptical, especially when so much GMO foods that have been banned in other countries. If you go by the old mantra, you are what you eat.
The future is now, at least in terms of the American diet.
Genetically altered tomatoes are a step closer to your supermarket tonight.
That it wasn't true. Actually, that is not true.
Yeah. More often than not, they're inserting viruses or bacteria into these plants.
Massive tumors that developed on these rats after they ate genetically modified corn over their lifetimes.
We cannot talk about GMO without mentioning bioengineered foods. Recently, when shopping at the supermarket, I noticed a lot more foods labels that says bioengineered food ingredients. I find this label as confusing as it is disturbing. It just made me realize how little I knew about what was truly in the food we consume. Essentially, bioengineered foods are the same thing as GMO. In 2016, Congress passed the National Bioengineered Food Disclosure Law, which requires food manufacturers and retailers to disclose foods that might be bioengineered according to the USDA website. The mandatory compliance deadline was January 1st, 2022, which explains why these food labels have been popping up everywhere. But as with anything else we covered, the so-called food disclosures on our channels, there are loopholes to this. Referring again to the USDA website, on this chart, it mentions that highly refined ingredients, for example, oils and sugars or meat products such as poultry, eggs, do not require a bioengineered food disclosure. That is not all. Small food companies, restaurants, food trucks, delis, and food served on airplanes and trains are not required to disclose if they are serving food that is bioengineered.
There are 9 genetically modified food crops. The primary ones are soy and corn, and their derivatives are practically omnipresent. There's also cottonseed oil, canola oil, and sugar from sugar beets. They just introduced alfalfa last year. Genetically modified foods, according to the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, cause severe disorders in animals like reproductive problems, accelerated aging, organ damage, gastrointestinal problems, immune system problems, and problems with the regulation of cholesterol and insulin.
In my opinion, this leaves a few things that need to be more clear. First, define what a small food manufacturer is. Does that mean all takeout food you may eat, especially our fast food, and you know Americans love their fast food, may or may not contain bioengineered foods? And you will never know if they did unless they voluntarily disclose it. Here are some labels that we recently discovered that may contain bioengineered ingredients. And even then, most of those labels just say it contains bioengineered food, but does not disclose specifically which ingredients are the products of biotechnology.
You may know even less when you go to buy seafood. The FDA just approved a new genetically modified salmon.
Chances are most Americans are already consuming futuristic foods. Genetically modified crops were introduced into our food supply in the 1990s. Aqua Bounty, the biotechnology company that created this new designer salmon, predicts a future of even more genetically modified animals in the food supply. With production now underway in the U.S., the company looks to win public approval.
Farm to table, or in this case, from laboratory to fish farm to your local grocery store. The FDA is just approving the sale of genetically modified salmon, saying there are no, quote, biologically relevant differences in the nutritional profile, and that genetically modified food will be going on store shelves without a GMO label.
The frankenfish, some might call it, is a bioengineered genetically modified salmon. About 30 years ago, scientists merged a growth hormone gene from the Pacific Chinook salmon together with a promoter gene from the powfish, which is able to turn other genes to create this new genetically engineered salmon fish that can grow twice as fast and in some instances much larger. This fish looks like a monster compared to the wild-caught one. In 2015, the FDA approved the bioengineered salmon created by a company called Aqua Bounty Technologies based out of Indiana, to be allowed for human consumption, becoming the first genetically modified animal to be accepted as food. As you can imagine, there is controversy surrounding this so-called Frankenfish, which is given the name based on the fictional monster created by Dr. Frankenstein, while others call it super salmon.
For the first time, the government is considering whether to allow the sale of food from a genetically altered animal, the FDA taking it up today.
It looks like any other salmon, but opponents call it Frankenfish and hope to keep it off your dinner plate. Here's the difference. Both these fish are 18 months old, but the larger genetically engineered Aqua Advantage salmon grows twice as fast as the regular salmon.
Critics have argued that regulators, such as the FDA, do not require the company to have extensive research done and the concerns for the potential consequences it can have on human health and the environment. Many critics have petitioned and vowed to boycott this Frankenfish, believing that our creator gave our fish to us and is not to be created by the arrogance of man.
78% of adults surveyed oppose GE salmon's approval. That's across every demographic.
Genetically enhancing is not good.
More than 60 grocery retail chains have already committed to not selling GMO salmon, despite the fact that the FDA has now approved it, and consumers have said they won't eat it. The FDA's approval is incredibly disappointing. The approval was irresponsible and flawed.
Target, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Kroger, and other major retailers have refused to carry the genetically modified salmon in their stores. On face value, it looks as it's a way to help with the ever-increasing demand on the world's food supply. But is it really that, or is it all about the dollar signs? Leave your comments on what your opinion is on this.
USDA has approved cell-cultivated meat to be sold to the public for the first time.
So that's where it all starts, just a few cells.
2 cultivated meat producers now getting the green light to begin commercially selling their chicken, not raised on a farm, but in a facility. The meat is grown using real animal cells in large bioreactors fed with nutrients.
What about this thing? Apparently it tastes, smells, and even looks like some kind of a tomato. Makes sense because it is a tomato, it's just purple. The genetically modified produce was developed by a team of scientists and just got USDA approval, clearing the way to be sold at grocery stores near you.
Bioengineered food is inevitable, and the population getting larger and natural resources are depleted. Bioengineered foods will certainly have a role in keeping up with the increased demand in the world's food supply. We've already seen this change with plant-based meats and even lab-grown meat. In June of 2023, New York Times reported that the Agriculture Department has approved the first time laboratory-produced grown chicken meat to be sold as food. September 22, the USDA approved genetically modified purple tomato to be sold and consumed as food. If you scroll through Amazon, you can see it's already available for sale in a variety of purple tomato seeds to choose from. Soon Genius Tomato is going to be out of business once this evil GMO tomato takes over. Let us know if you'd like to see another video covering more of this in detail. If you want your favorite tomato to keep doing videos, make sure to click the like button, share this with someone you care about, subscribe, and make sure to click on that bell icon to be notified of our new videos. Until then, stay informed, and Genius Tomato out.